intentions, but some things never change, and that is how close it is in F3. At the qualifying session yesterday, the top 17 cars were separated by just 0.9 seconds around this 3.84 kilometre long circuit. I'm Chris Hartley, and we're looking forward to what's promising to be another fantastic season of the championship. 30 races coming up during the course of the season, right up till October. And a first visit in this new guise of the championship since it was reformed in 2012 to this circuit, Paul Ricard. And there you can see the grid for the first of the weekend's 3 races. There are 2 races today and 1 race tomorrow. It was on a drying track that Lance Stroll for the Prema Power team set the fastest lap in qualifying yesterday, right at the end of the lap. It was an interesting and sensational session with the drying track, and it was a case of who was out there at the right time, getting pole position, getting on the front, and Lance Stroll did it for Prema Power team, but only by 0.81 seconds, so 81 thousandths of a second between him and his Prema Power team teammate Nick Cassidy. And as you saw there, Nico Carey, one of the new names, one of the 9 rookies that we've got in the championship for the German Motor Park team, having an excellent run to qualify 3rd. Somebody that's only been racing cars for a year or so. There is Lance Stroll then, who in many eyes will be coming into this season as one of the favourites, bearing in mind that the top 4 from last year's championship have all moved on to different things, and Lance Stroll finished 5th in the championship last year. So there he is. They're delighted with his first pole position. He wants to make the most of this, though, because qualifying 2, which sets the grid for races 2 and 3, didn't go quite so well for him. So he's going to be a bit further back for those races. For the race later on today, he'll be starting from the 4th row of the grid. There then is one of his teammates for Prema Power team, the team that has won the championship in terms of manufacturers and drivers every season since 2012, since the championship was reformed. There's Nick Cassidy, who won the Japanese Formula 3 Championship last year, and he's doing most of the season this year. 1 or 2 commitments put him out of every single race, but he has been dipping in and out of the series for a number of years. And there is Nico Carey. Fantastic effort from the young Finnish driver who's with the Motor Park team, powered by the VW engine, and he's in the Red Bull Junior Academy. Pretty interesting, given that a couple of years ago he was racing karts. In 2013 he was the Finnish karting champion, raced in the SMP Formula 4 Championship last year, took 7 race wins and the championship title in that, and now he is in Formula 3. And there is George Russell for Hi-Tech Grand Prix, a new name in terms of a full season for the championship. Hi-Tech Grand Prix, they did a couple of races last year with Alexander Sims, but this is an all-out assault for the championship title. They've got a good driver lineup as well, and it's a very strong team made up of experienced engineers based in Silverstone. And George Russell has moved from the Carlin team to this team to really have a go at trying to break this stranglehold that Prema have. George, though, needs to make the most of this. He qualified 2nd for races 2 and 3, but overnight, unfortunately, he was excluded from the qualifying results on a technicality. You meant to have a kilogram of fuel left in the car at the end of qualifying, and they were just under that, so there was no performance gain as such. But unfortunately, the rules are the rules, and he's been put to the back of the grid, George Russell, for races 2 and 3, even though he was second quickest in the 2nd qualifying session. You just saw Ben Barnicoat, who's backed by the Racing Steps Foundation, doing well, qualifying 5th, the ex-Formula Renault racer. 2nd best rookie in this qualifying session. Mikkel Jensen there, who's the only driver for the Muka Motorsport team this weekend. His teammate is not quite old enough to race yet. David Beckerman will join the championship in the 3rd round at Po. He's only 15 years of age, so there's only one Muka Motorsport car this weekend. And that's quite a comeback from last year, where they were running 4 or 5 cars at most of the meetings. Sergio Seta Camara, the Brazilian there, another for the Motor Park team, qualifying in 7th position. And there is Max Gunther. Now, Max Gunther might be one to watch here. He's 8th on the grid. Felt he was certainly faster than that, but as I say, it was a bit of a lottery with the drying track in that qualifying session. And Max proved that he could go quicker by setting the fastest time in the dry 2nd qualifying session late yesterday afternoon. So Max Gunther is further back on the grid for this one, but he will be starting the race from pole position this afternoon, and likewise he'll be doing exactly the same later on.
Motor
country. Disappointed. I spoke with him yesterday, and he was a bit disappointed with how it went in qualifying. He's just trying to get some points now, but he came into the weekend with much higher aspirations, aiming for top 5, top 6 finish, but he suggested that it might be a little bit difficult to overtake here in the dry, so he might have to settle for points. So Antoine Hubert there for Van Amersfoort Racing. And there's Raoul Hyman, who has moved team as well. Quite a few teams dropping out this season. Raoul going from Team Westec to Carlin, the South African. And Piquet Pedro there, or Pedro Piquet as it should be, the Brazilian driver and son of the 3 times Formula 1 world champion Nelson Piquet, half-brother to Nelson Piquet Jr., who was also in days gone by a Formula 3 racer, Formula 1 racer, of course, and the Formula E champion of last year. He's making his debut. There is Guan Yu Zhu, the Chinese driver, junior European karting champion in the Rotax Max series back in 2012, second in the seniors the year after that, and then a successful year, second in the Italian Formula 4 championship last year. So another quick rookie to look out for. Motor Park been impressed with his speed in testing. Ryan Tveta comes back for another season in F3, the American, only 17th on the grid for this one with the Carlin team. New restrictions this year mean that one team can only run 4 cars as a maximum. Carlin last year were running 6 cars. Muka Motorsport ran sometimes 5 cars, but only 4 cars allowed this year. And Ryan Tveta staying with Carlin, the American driver. Callum Aylott there is the driver that should have been starting 18th on the grid, but he's been put back to last place on the grid. As you see, Arjun Maini there is another that switched teams from Van Amersfoort to 3Bond with T-Sport. 3Bond, the only 3Bond powered car out there. All the others are Mercedes or VW engines. And he's on his own in that team at the moment. Zaikong Li comes back, the Chinese driver. He's with Carlin, he switched teams as well. As I say, Callum Aylott should have been 18th on the grid, but he's been demoted to 21st due to an engine change. It wasn't really a problem with the engine. Well, it was a problem with the engine. It caught fire. But in days gone by, that might have cost you 10-place grid penalty for the next 3 races. But because it wasn't a standard engine change, the engine caught fire at the end of a testing run on Thursday. Because it wasn't a standard engine change, he also had to change his chassis. Then he's only been given a 10-place grid penalty for this race. So Callum Aylott will just try and make the most of this, but it's later on, and tomorrow he'll be looking to get good points because Callum Aylott qualifies 3rd on the grid for race number 3, and he qualifies on the 3rd row of the grid for the 2nd race this afternoon. There then is the grid, the top 10 as you see it. Prema Power team, well, I've got the top 2 spots on the grid for this one, but there's a very different look to the grid for the race later on today. There is the grid in full. And just to go back to that Callum Aylott story, yes, the car caught fire. The scrutineers judged that probably it would be best not to race the Dallara chassis until it was checked for safety. But Hitech, another team, sorry, not Hitech, 3Bond T-Sport came to his rescue. The T-Sport team lent their spare chassis to Callum Aylott from a different team, Van Amersfoort Racing. So hats off to T-Sport. You hear this in club racing, that people help each other out, get each other on the track. You sometimes think that maybe at this level that wouldn't happen, but T-Sport giving their spare chassis to a driver from another team, and that's a great bit of camaraderie and sportsmanship there to get Callum Aylott, the Van Amersfoort team, out on the track this weekend. And as I say, he qualified very well indeed for the 2nd and 3rd races. So they're heading off onto the formation lap. 3 races this weekend. A slight change in the race format is that it will be 33 minutes plus 1 lap. So each race 33 minutes plus 1 lap. So they're timed races. And again, they'll all be on the Hankook tyres. Dry tyres today, it seems. It was rain affected yesterday. A bit showery yesterday. The weather has been pretty mixed. It's reasonably warm, but not quite the southern French temperatures you might expect. And tomorrow there is a 60% chance that it might rain, so I think it's going to be a very, very interesting weekend. All these new drivers switching teams, and not many drivers with too much experience of this circuit, having not raced here before, either in F3 or in other championships. 1 or 2 of the ex-Formula Renault racers have been around here. Antoine Hubert, for example, number 21, 13th on the grid, he has raced here before, but he told me the last time he raced here was 2012, and it was on the long version of the circuit. This is the shorter version of this circuit, which has various layouts, and a pretty quick lap around here. So the pole position time on the drying track was 1 minute 24.2 from Lance Stroll, but when they got to the dry conditions yesterday, it was 1:20.8 they were going around in, so that was an average speed of about 170 kilometres an hour for these drivers. So it's a pretty quick circuit. The overtaking is likely to come at the end of the straights. The chicane at turn 4 is key in terms of getting a good exit, getting a good run down the back straight into the flat out turn 5, Courbe de San. And then it's the final sector, really, sector 3, where it gets very technical through turn 6. Lots of aero used, 4th gear corner, and into the left-right sequence through turn 7, 8, 9, and 10. You can't really overtake, but you can make a big difference to your lap time if you've got a good balance on the chassis. So Felix Rosenqvist was the champion last year. He's moved on to Indy Lights, already a race winner in his maiden weekend at St. Petersburg, so well done to him. Antonio Giovinazzi was second in the championship last year with Carlin. He's now in GP2, ironically racing with Prema, who he was up against last year. Jack Dennis has moved into GP3. Charles Leclerc has moved into GP3 with the ART Grand Prix team, and is a Haas F1 development driver as well. So the highest placed driver from last year's championship, Lance Stroll, is the one that will line up on pole position, the Canadian, very much with the sights set on becoming the first Canadian since Jacques Villeneuve, world champion, of course, to race in Formula 1. Jacques Villeneuve, the 96 world champion. So there, the front two drivers lining up. Prema Power team with Lance Stroll on pole to the right. Nick Cassidy alongside in. The red lights are on. They go out after a long hold. There's a bad start for number 7 off the line in front of the commentary box. Mikkel Jensen is very slow away. He's going to drop to the back of the field in the orange Buga Motorsport car. The Prema cars get into the first turn. It might be Cassidy that sneaks into the lead of the race, and then there's some contact a bit further back. That's one of the Motor Park cars, one of the Red Bull back cars that has been hit. Might be Kamara. The Brazilian will work that out, and they come back through. It's either Kamara or Kari that had a sluggish start as well. Ed Barnicoat's made a good start, hasn't he? He's there in 4th place, gained a position, pretty frantic through turns 1 and 2. Yes, Kari is out there, so it was Seti Kamara, I think, that we saw spinning. So Nick Cassidy getting the best start there, jumping the pole sitter and his teammate Lance Stroll to get up into the lead of the race. George Russell tucks in behind in 3rd position for his new team, Hi-Tech Grand Prix. And there we see more moves in the midfield as they try and work their way through the opening stages. Ralph Hyman, that was trying to run through and gain a position. Lots of fast whipping corners here at the Paul Ricard circuit. 1 or 2 incidents, but mostly a clean start that was. Just a glimpse of Max Gunther there in the number 17 car. Disastrous start off the line for Mikkel Jensen, who was 6th on the grid. In fact, he's the only driver in the field that has, until this weekend, been on pole position in Formula 3. All the other drivers have since moved on. There we can see number 6, Callum Ilott, making the most of the inside line there. The white number 15 machine of Arjun Mining running alongside him, the 3 Bonds T-Sport car. And now a change of lead. Lance Stroll just simply drives past his teammate Nick Cassidy into the lead of the race. There is the Prema Power team. They've still got a 1-2, but in a different order now. George Russell still behind them in 3rd place. The wheel banging there, running out wide. That's Antoine Hubert, the French driver. That's going to lose him time and places. There you can see the bright blue and yellow of Alessio Lorandi, who's made up a place or 2 as well in 8th position. So it is Stroll, Cassidy, Russell the top 3, Barnicoat 4th, Gunther in 5th, Ericsson in 6th, Ralph Aron 7th. Those 2 rookies going well. Lorandi in 8th. Nico Kari dropped to 9th place on the first lap. And Harrison Newey made up a couple of places up into 10th position for the ex-Formula 4 racer, son of Le One design legend Adrian Newey, who's been here with his son this weekend. Then number 21, Antoine Hubert, who's dropped down to around about 18th place. Callum Ilott's up to 13th position at the end of that first lap from dead last on the grid. Not quite as large a field as we had last year, but the quality is very much there this season. And lots of potential race winners and championship winners, it would seem, here this first round, this first weekend of the championship. We'll get to know a little bit more about the drivers and what they're capable of. So Lance Stroll goes through, starting to pull away now from Nick Cassidy. He's 0.8 seconds clear at the end of that second lap of the race. George Russell is a further half a second back in third. Actually, where's Cassidy's not showing up on the graphic, but he is there on the timing screen. Pretty sure he is still there. It's around the corner of the shot. There you can see Alessio Lorandi, number 4, chasing down Ralph Aron, who has moved up into the Prema Power team, having had this very successful championship year in the Italian Formula 3 Championship last year. This is Formula Renault Racing the year before that, having come through from karting. And finished second in the Northern European Championship. Yeah, Cassidy is there, just didn't come on your graphic on the screen, but he very much is there still in second place. Russell third, Barnicoat fourth, Gunther fifth. This is the closest battle, though, for sure. Alessio Lorandi coming to attack Ralph Aron, both former kart racers. But of course, with a season extra, Alessio Lorandi in this championship. Similar colour scheme that he had last year, but with a different team, as I say, switching from Van Amersfoort to Carlin. Same engine, because Van Amersfoort ran VW engines last year. Carlin ran VW engines. Van Amersfoort this year, though, his old team, have switched to Mercedes power. Some troubles in qualifying, but Harrison Newey has made a good start for them. Pushing the tyres hard, coming out of the final turn over the start-finish line down towards turn 1. Hard braking into turn 1. This is down to second gear for the cars, and one of the overtaking opportunities around the circuit. Up to third gear, then through this fast kink at turn 3 to a short straight, and then it's third gear again for the Virage de l'Hôtel, the turns 3-4 section, which is basically a chicane and runs onto the back straight. About the progress of Callum Ilott. He made an excellent start to go from 21st to 13th. He's still in 13th. At the moment, he's stuck behind Ryan Tveta, the American number 3 car. We're going to get a replay at the start. Look at the orange Buka Motorsport car, fourth one back on the left. Stalling it on the line, eventually getting underway. Mikkel Jensen has started to make progress back up the field, though. He dropped almost a stone last with that start there, you can see it, and it was lucky that people avoided him on the run off the line. You have to go for it. You can't expect that somebody's going to be slow off the line. And then here was that replay of contact. And off went Sergio Sette Camara. Wheel banging. He was on the outside line and with not much grip with the cold tyres, he went off. So Mikkel Jensen, yeah, up to 15th place now. So ahead of Raoul Heibert. Ahead of Arjun Maini. His next target is Guan Yu Zhu, who's in 14th place. Race leaders with Lance Stroll holding a steady gap now, 0.9 seconds. 1 minute 22.6 for the race leader last time around, 1 minute 22.7 for Cassidy in second place, and a 1 minute 22.8 for George Russell in third, 1 minute 22.9 for Ben Barnicoat and for Max Gunther. So the gaps are opening up between the top 5, but only by around 1/10 of a second. You can see Nico Carey, number 10, who is dropped behind Harrison Newey now. There is Harrison in the number 20 car, who is up into 9th place now. So good steady start to his Formula 3 career, this for Harrison Newey, the British driver, here with the Van Amersfoort team, making up 3 places in the race already. He was second in the BRDC British Formula 4 Championship last year. And also did some races in the German Formula 4 Championship, and the year before that, the French Formula 4 Championship as well. So he has got some international race experience. He's had an excellent start here. His father, Adrian, of course, Chief Technical Officer at the Red Bull Formula 1 team. The only man that's achieved Constructors' World titles in Formula 1 with 3 different teams, Williams, McLaren and Red Bull. There we can see number 17, who's going to be one to watch, I think, as the race goes on here. Max Gunther, quick enough to be on pole position for this afternoon's race, trying to make his way up. And he's doing so quite successfully at the moment. He started the race in 8th place, he's up in the 5th position. There you can see Guan Yu Zhu in the red machine, the Motorpark machine, coming under attack now from Ryan Tveta. Behind them is Mikkel Jensen. And Mikkel Jensen pulls out of the slipstream. He's going to be 3 abreast here into the first corner, but Guan Yu Zhu holds them off there, keeps them at bay. There's a place gain, though, for Mikkel Jensen. He maxes that opportunity and gets ahead of the black and blue number 3 Carlin car of the American Ryan Tveta. So that will put Mikkel Jensen back up now into 14th place. Good driving that, though, from Guan Yu Zhu, who, the Shanghai-born driver there, in his first race in Formula 3. Certainly was under attack there, but he kept his cool, braked as late as he dared, but he was tidy on the exit to the corner, which was absolutely critical. The Motorpark driver doing good things here. At the head of the field, there's been a new fastest lap of the race for Lance Stroll last time around, 1 minute 22.271, but on this lap, Nick Cassidy has had the fastest first sector of anybody. That said, he goes through sector 2 and the gap grows by another 1/10 of a second. Turn 1, lap 1 incident under investigation. And that'll be the one, I guess, involving the Brazilian driver, Sergio Sette Camara. And the Carlin team watching on, team working flat out this week on the cars. Through what's been a tricky week of pre-practice, the official test session before that, with the weather very changeable to say the least. There's a replay of the lock-up from the race leader at turn 1. He got away with it. And I thought it might have been, it was the 2 teammates that came together, wasn't it? The 2 Red Bull-backed cars. So Nico Carey had made a bad start, the Finnish driver. There was contact between him and Sergio Sette Camara. That's what's being looked at. Now, the gap at the end of that lap actually grew again between the two leaders. So Nick Cassidy was very quick in the first sector, but for the rest of the lap, Lance Stroll pulled away. So the gap has grown to nearly a second and a half now between the top two. Fastest first sector as well for Lance Stroll, the Canadian. Pushing on here, looking to get his season off to the perfect start. He's from Montreal, 17 years of age. He's another driver that came up through Formula 4. In his first season of racing, he won the Italian Formula 4 Championship with Prema. And Arjun Maini there with problems, I think, going quite slowly, the number 15 machine, the T-Sport car. Likable Indian driver. Does not look to be on the pace there, and he might be headed for the pits, I'm afraid. So Stroll leads, Cassidy in second, Russell third, Barnicoat fourth, Gunther in fifth, Joel Eriksson in sixth, Ralph Aron seventh, Alessio Lorandi in eighth, and it's Harrison Newey and Nico Carey ninth and 10th. Pedro Piquet up to 11th place now. Pedro, in the wet test session earlier in the weekend, was quickest, so he might be looking forward to tomorrow's rain. The Brazilian Formula 3 champion, 2 times Brazilian Formula 3 champion. We've watched on family here watching him, and doing okay in 11th place at the moment. He had a spin in the second qualifying session yesterday, coming out through turn 8, but it didn't cause him any damage. And yes, indeed, in comes Arjun Maini, I'm afraid. So Arjun heading into the pits with what looks like a Pauly car, the T-Sport car, I think, headed for retirement. They might get him back out to test it, but it depends on the depth of the problem. The best lap still belongs to Lance Stroll. Said a couple of laps ago, 1 minute 22.7. And he's just stretching his legs now, 1 or 2 tenths of a second per lap. Lance Stroll pulling away from his Prema Power team teammate Nick Cassidy. The Canadian leads the New Zealander. The British drivers, George Russell and Ben Barnicoat, third and fourth, and the German driver Max Gunther in fifth. Ben Barnicoat is the leading rookie. There's a separate podium for the rookies, a separate championship for the rookies as well. Lance Stroll finishing third in last year's rookie standings and fifth in the overall championship. Leads the race here for Prema Power Team. Was backed by Ferrari as a Ferrari Young Driver Programme member, but he's now a member of the Williams Martini Racing Young Driver Development Programme. Very successful in karting, as most of these drivers are. 2-time Canadian karting champion, now very much focused on car racing, and that was a nice move from Harrison Newey to muscle his way past Alessio Lorandi. Good move under braking. He's making steady but determined progress here. Harrison Newey is the 4th best placed rookie. Got 4 rookies in the top 8 now. That puts him up to 8th place. Harrison Newey marching along very nicely indeed. Lorandi overtaken by essentially his old team there, Van Amersfoort Racing. So there is the number 20 of Harrison Newey. And we'll see what sort of pace he's got now, because he's got a clear track ahead of him before he's able to catch the next car, which is Ralph Aron. Ben Barnicoat in 4th, Joel Eriksson in 6th, and Ralph Aron in 7th place, the best rookies at the moment. So Prema are 1st and 2nd, but this is a good start to a new campaign for the team which was founded just about 12 months ago, Hi-Tech Grand Prix. Hi-Tech, a name very familiar to fans of British Formula 3 back in the day, as Hi-Tech Racing, and indeed David Hale, who was the founder of that team, is involved in Hi-Tech Grand Prix, but it is a different team. It is a completely new setup. Got some talented people there. They've even got the technical director of Prema, the former technical director of Prema, John McGill, on board. And there's, as you can see, the Hi-Tech team on the pit wall there. Oliver Oakes running the team. They've got a tie-in with ART, with AOTech, so ART Grand Prix team, which races in GP2. In fact, they've got Charles Leclerc, former F3 man, of course, in DT2, and Alex Albon, both racing in GP3 this year. They run Gary Paffett and Esteban Ocon, the 2014 champion of Formula 3. They ran him in DTM, Fred Vasseur's ART team, which dominated the previous guys of this championship when it was the F3 Euro Series. They dominated for many, many years, and they've got this tie-in on the engineering side with Hi-Tech Grand Prix, so it's a pretty big assault on the championship. People that's put some investment into it as well. Has his son racing, so it's the Russian Dmitry Matsipan who has invested in the team. As we can see, Lorandi coming under attack now from number 5, Pedro Piquet, who in turn has got Callum Ilott up to 12th place now from the back of the grid. His new livery, not the Red Bull colours that he had. He hasn't got the Red Bull backing anymore, but Callum Ilott there at the back of this trio. in the black and orange machine for Van Amersfoort Racing. And here's Lorandi, number 4, and getting out wide there and losing traction, number 5, PK. And so Lorandi will just drive past him. And now Callum Ilott might be able to get a toe here and launch one down the inside into turn number 1. He's thinking about it. He pulls out of the slipstream. He's going to be late enough on the brakes. PK covers his line. There's all sorts of weaving going on. In fact, PK goes on the attack. Out wide goes Callum Ilott. Misses his braking point, and he's going to lose a stack of time. I don't think he'll lose any places, but Ilott's going to lose at least a second there. So PK, that was great driving from PK, because he was under attack, under the cosh, and instead of defending, he attacked. He turned defence into attack and got his place back from Lorandi. Picked up the toe. So great little squabble going on there between those three for what is the final points-paying position for 10th place. So it is an important battle lap. The gap between the top two is steadied for the last couple of laps at around about 1.8 seconds. George Russell is 3.3 seconds behind the leader, a second and a half behind Cassidy in second place, but nearly 2 seconds clear of Ben Barnicoat, who still leads the rookies and runs in 4th place overall. So good scrap going on there. Ben Barnicoat doing well, number 19, age 19, number 24 in the race, with the Racing Steps Racing Steps Foundation, of course, backing Jake Dennis to 3rd place in last year's championship, and still with him in GP3 this season. He moves into that category. Raced in the Formula Renault Euro Cup, Ben Barnicoat last year, the championship in which lots of drivers progressed through to Formula 3. Esteban Ocon being one of them a couple of seasons ago before he won the championship title last year. So Barnicoat doing well. His 3rd season of car racing there. In fact, it was at the end of 2013 that he made his car racing debut in the BARC Formula Renault Championship in the UK.
Motors team.
Gunther, so 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th starting to squabble. Meanwhile, Nico Carrier has moved up to 8th place. Harrison Newey back down to 9th position on that lap. So that's the first time Newey's gone backwards. Nico Carrier, of course, the Finnish driver, was quick enough to qualify 3rd on the grid. He just had a bad start, but he's starting to make up a bit of time now. Circuit should be pretty kind to the tyres in terms of them lasting. Antoine Hubert saying to me yesterday it's a pretty smooth circuit. In qualifying, you can get at least 4 good laps out of them to set a benchmark time. So it's not one of those circuits that's particularly hard on the tyres, even though there are some quick turns here. It's very smooth, little undulation down that start-finish straight, but it's a relatively flat circuit. The gap, meanwhile, we haven't seen them for a while, but the gap's come down a little between the two leaders. So Stroll only 1.4 seconds clear now. He's still not exactly under pressure, but the gap definitely coming down a little bit. 1:23.4 for the leaders. They're still quicker than that battle for 3rd between Russell and Barnicoat, though, who are doing 1:23.6s. But Max Gunther's in the 1:23.4s as well. So he's as quick as the race leaders, and he's very much catching the 2 drivers ahead of him, is Max Gunther. Gunther enjoying life at Prema. I was talking to him yesterday, and as I say, he's got into the team, settled in straight away. He said really nice, friendly, family atmosphere in the team. He said on one hand it's good, it's fun, there's lots of banter. On the other hand, they are extremely professional. And he says it's a very good balance they have there in that team. And also saying to me, Max Gunther, that the drivers all get along well. At least they do at the moment. I mean, it's only the first race of the season, isn't it? Who knows what's going to happen once people start going wheel to wheel. Max very much said, yes, it's every man for himself out on the track, but we all do get along well, we respect each other, and it's good that we've got some quick drivers in the team. We can share data, we can develop the car together and work together to be the quickest out there. So a strong lineup, that's for sure, at Prema. Max Gunther settling straight in, looking good, the German driver, the tall German in 5th place, any German in the field at the moment this season. Very much an international mix in the top 6, isn't it? A Canadian leads, a New Zealander, 2 British drivers, a German, a Swede, then you've got an Estonian and a Finnish driver, and a Brazilian, all in the top 10 in the race, because Pedro Piquet is up into 10th place. He's ahead now of Alessio Lorandi, as we saw with that move, and he's still hanging on to that final championship point, which would be impressive in his first race. Not of F3, because he raced, as I said, in Brazilian Formula 3 last year, but of the European Formula 3 Championship. Just about 12.5 minutes to go in the race. Guan Yu Zhu, then, number 23, looking pretty steady in 14th place. He's not in the top 3 rookies, but he's been in and around 13th, 14th most of the weekend. So steady start so far for him. But that's what you'd hope for as a rookie, really, isn't it? To get a steady start, get some decent results and finishes and mileage under your belt, and then start to push forward as the season goes on. The race leader's gone past the commentary box, and on that lap he just edged out 0.5 of a second on Nick Cassidy. So Cassidy is capable of closing the gap at times, but not on a consistent basis. He is, though, still pulling away from George Russell, and George, by only 0.05 of a second on that lap, was caught by Ben Barnicoat. There is George Russell then, number 12, and there is Ben Barnicoat, number 24. The two British drivers running together here. One in his second season of European Formula 3 racing, the other in his debut race in the championship, and both of them, I fear, being caught by Max Gunther, who has just set the personal best time for himself in sector 1. So a personal best through the first sector of the lap for Max Gunther, and he took 1/10 of a second out of Ben Barnicoat through there. They went their way through that sweeping right-hander towards this final sector through the left at turn 7. Virage de Bendour. This big sweeping, arcing right-hander at turn 8. Quite late on the brakes, but quite a quick corner for turn 9. 4th gear, then down to 2nd for the last corner it will be, as they make their way back onto the long start-finish straight. So Lance Stroll leads the way. I've had 15 laps complete now. Nick Cassidy is in 2nd place. George Russell is 3rd. Ben Barnicoat 4th. Max Gunther 5th. Joel Eriksson still 6th, 2nd best rookie. Ralph Aron 7th, and the 3rd best rookie on for a rookie podium. Nico Carey in 8th place, Harrison Newey in 9th place, Pedro Piquet 10th, just outside the points. Alessio Lorandi is 11th, Callum Ilott is still behind him in 12th place, and not really catching at the moment after that lock-up a couple of laps ago. Mikkel Jensen in 13th place, Guan Yu Zhu 14th, Ryan Svetter 15th, Raoul Hyman 16th, 17th Antoine Hubert, Sergio Sette Camara 18th after his lap 1 turn 1 incident, Nikita Mazepin, the Russian driver, in 19th, Zhaikong Li in 20th, and Arjun Maini is the only retiree so far. Retired a few laps ago with a slow-looking car, some sort of power-related problem, either electrical or mechanical. And there you can see Nico Carey, number 10, doing a very good job. Difficult start to the race for him, but he sort of shook himself down for a couple of laps, and then he started to get stuck in again now. Ben Barnicoat has responded to the pressure that's been coming from Max Gunther by setting his personal best first sector time. There's not much between them through the 2nd sector, so it's still at about 3/4 of a second, the gap from 4th to 5th. Gunther was closing, but on this lap it looks like Barnicoat's going to keep him at bay. The always entertaining Alessio Lorandi then is the one you're watching, the bright blue and yellow machine, well, dark blue and bright yellow machine. Carlin running Alessio Lorandi. In many ways, some might see him as one of their top drivers this year, the 17-year-old from Brescia. Only 20th in the championship last year in his first season of Formula 3 racing. There are ups and downs, and there's another down as he outbrakes himself, runs wide, and that will cost him a place, because sneaking through pretty easily was Callum Ilott. So he went for a sort of luck up the inside rather than a move, jigged back, and then was a bit wild on the brakes and just got that wrong, I'm afraid, and Callum Ilott nipped past him, said thanks very much. That's probably the easiest move I'm going to get all year, and into 11th place now has gone Callum Ilott. So he'll want to go for this now. Callum, having gone from 21st all the way up to 11th, he'll want to get himself a point for all of this trouble now. He's still got 8.5 minutes to try and close the gap to Pedro Piquet and find a way past. He has got good speed, that's for sure, Callum. And if he can get in the points here, this will be pretty impressive. Britta Setter from the championship made the point that last year at Silverstone, the first race, one driver that got put back from qualifying, having qualified on pole and started the first race from the back of the field after a technical infringement, was Felix Rosenqvist, and he went on to win the championship. So drivers like Callum Ilott and George Russell, who've had frustrations post-qualifying this weekend, can maybe take heart from that. Here then is very much a battle developing. Look at this, these three absolutely tied together. At the back of the trio there is the number 9 car of Sergio Sette Camara. Raoul Hyman at the front of that queue, Antoine Hubert in between them, so 16th, 17th and 18th, these three cars. Sergio Sette Camara's trying to squeeze alongside, using all of the track here to try and get past the Frenchmen as they go across the start-finish line, trying to make his way back up through the order after running out wide and being forced off at the first corner. After contact, each driver will have his own explanation. He goes through, and after he goes through, Antoine Hubert runs wide because he tried to keep it on the line, tried to keep his foot planted to go through the chicane, and the move is done. So that will put Sette Camara back up to 17th place. Dragged it back onto the circuit just before he got to that marker board. So look at the move. Nice bit about braking that, wasn't it, from the Brazilian driver, Sette Camara. But when you're on the attack, when you're on the back foot, you're coming from the back of the field, you're more likely to go for moves like that. We're still a very, very long way away from a point-scoring finish, though, I'm afraid. We've got just about 6.5 minutes to go, plus one lap, don't forget, at the end of the race. The gap between the top two is sometimes coming down, sometimes growing, but generally it's coming down. It's just over a second now between Lance Stroll and Nick Cassidy. On the last lap, for example, Stroll was 500ths quicker, but the lap before that, Cassidy took a tenth or two out of him. George Russell being caught slightly by Ben Barnicoat, who's having to work hard now to keep Max Gunther behind him. So the 4th and 5th is the closest scrap inside the top 10, really. And the gap from 10th to 11th is only a couple of tenths of a second as well now. So a 10.5 gained by Callum Ilott on Pedro Piquet for this final points-paying position last time around. So that's going to be well worth keeping an eye on as the race comes into its closing stages. Heading up the hill now into turn 5. There then is number 10, Nico Carey, number 20, Harrison Newey. And here is this battle for the final points-paying position. It's been a great drive, this, from Callum Ilott, the 17-year-old from Cambridge originally, lives in Hertfordshire these days. 12th in the championship with Carlin last year. Hasn't had a win yet, but did get a podium finish at the Nürburgring and was the 7th in the rookie championship. There he is in the black and orange number 6 car, attacking Pedro Piquet for this final point in the first race of the weekend. And to remind you that Callum is going to be much higher up the grid for races 2 and 3. He'll be 4th on the grid this afternoon, he'll be 3rd on the grid for the race tomorrow. The second qualifying session giving us the grid as always for races 2 and 3. Each driver's fastest time gives you the grid for race 2. Each driver's second fastest time gives you the grid for race 3. But it was the first qualifying session on a drying track which gave us the grid for this one. And here we have the battle for the final point. And getting close now, and having a look at the inside is Callum Ilott. He's gone for it the first time of asking, and he goes through the same corner where he went wide 5 or 6 laps ago. This time he makes it pay for him, and that's where all the overtaking has been happening for Callum Ilott. So he gets through. Piquet was a little bit stunned there, I think. Callum had only just got onto his tail, and he thought, I'm not going to hang around, I'm going to go for it first time, I'm going to get my point. And away he went. Lovely move from Callum Ilott there to get himself up into 10th place now from 21st on the grid. Who said you can't overtake around Paul Ricard? He can, and we've seen quite a bit actually of overtaking. The thought was that if we were using the longer circuit here, there would be certainly a lot of slipstreaming. It's not quite so set up for that around this course, but we have seen some good battles throughout the course of the order. There is Mikkel Jensen, who's just got himself ahead of Guan Yu Zhu for 13th place, but Guan Yu Zhu trying to fight back at him and get the place back in the closing stages. Mikkel Jensen, the Danish driver, will be absolutely devastated at the start to the race. He had 2 podiums last year at Monza, 2nd and a 3rd, 6th in the rookie championship, and saying that he's feeling a lot more confident now coming into his 2nd season of racing. Also seeing it as a good thing in a way that there are only going to be 2 drivers with Muka Motorsport this year because they get more attention. He did say though ideally he'd want 3 cars to get that little bit more data. He did see it as a positive thing. As I say, he's the only driver for the first 2 races until David Beckman, the German driver, is old enough to join the series. He turned 16 in about a month and a half's time. He'll join at Pau, which is not the easiest place to make your Formula 3 debut, is it, around the streets of Pau? But hey-ho, he'll be itching to get in the car. So it'll be a difficult learning curve for him, that's for sure. And there's Lorandi there, who is trying to get himself a point, but he's a couple of positions away at the moment. He's 12th. He's got to deal with Pedro Piquet. You can see how Callum Ilott has just gone away from Piquet as soon as he got past him. He's rocketed away. You start to wonder now if maybe there's a chance of an extra point here. Harrison Newey is the next target for Callum Ilott. And the way he's going, I think he'll have time to catch him. Whether he might have time to pass him is another question, but he's very much driving positively, Callum Ilott. He's got the speed, and he seems to have been able to keep the tyres with him as well. Certainly, there's a bit of a lock-up as he passed Pedro Piquet, but only because he braked at the last possible instant. And he's still carrying good speed, so in battling through the order, he's also been able to nurture his tyres. Good drive from Callum Ilott, very good drive. At the head of the field, Lance Stroll, 0.9 of a second clear. Again, the gap grows on one lap, comes down on another. But he hasn't been under pressure, has he, from Nick Cassidy, really, in this race, other than on that first lap where Cassidy made the better start. Stroll got back easily, and now we see defending his position here, number 7, Mikkel Jensen, coming under attack from Guan Yu Zhu, who certainly knows how to pull off a good move or two when he was driving karts, and likewise in Formula 4. Drivers that come up from Formula Renault and Formula 4 always say it's the extra aero, the downforce, which is the biggest learning curve in Formula 3. As we look at this battle now between 19, Raoul Hyman, number 9 in the Red Bull colours, Sergio Sette Camara, the Frenchman under attack from the Brazilian, and Antoine Hubert, another Frenchman who went wide when Sette Camara passed him. You saw a couple of laps ago. He's back with them now, isn't he? So that trio together, it's a close scrap. Unfortunately, it's not going to be for points. It's 16th, 17th and 18th these three cars are battling for. Sette Camara is going to try and whip one around the outside here, though, and he might just do it. Good move from Sergio Sette Camara. Oh, what might have been. He's certainly got the pace. He's got some good racecraft here, but it all went wrong for him on that first corner, didn't it? But certainly, he might be one to watch later in the race. Antoine Hubert now is going to sneak through as well as Hyman goes out wide. So the South African loses 2 places, and Antoine Hubert moves up to 17th. Up to 16th ahead of both of them now, Sergio Sette Camara. We're into the final minute then on the clock. And then once the time ticks down to 0, with another complete lap at the end of that one. So the leaders come through. The time will tick down on this lap, and I'll get another one at the end of it. So a lap and a half to go for the 2 leaders. Antoine Hubert trying one around the outside of Mikkel Jensen now. Not the race that Jensen had been hoping for, the Danish driver. And agonisingly close to getting back in the points after that bad start, but he's not going to make it, I'm afraid. Callum Ilott, meanwhile, has got the gap from himself to Harrison Newey down to 0.7 of a second. He was 4/10ths quicker on that last lap, so he might just have time on the final lap to do it. In fact, Callum Ilott has just set the fastest first sector of anybody in the race. 32.1, he's taken another 2/10ths out of Harrison Newey, so the gap's only just over half a second now for 9th place between the number 20 of Harrison Newey and the number 6 of Callum Ilott. He is flying. Great drive. Up front, the gap between first and second is 0.8 of a second. There is Nick Cassidy in second place, and you can see not that far up the road is Lance Stroll. Through they come. The time has now ticked down, so they're going to go on to the final lap of the race. Familiar sight, Prema Power Team watching with cautious optimism. Got their cars in first and second places here, but going to be a podium, it looks like, for Hi-Tech Grand Prix on their FIA Formula 3 debut in terms of their first full campaign in the championship. George Russell, I think, will be pretty pleased about that, but also still that little bit downbeat that instead of starting second on the grid this afternoon, he's going to have to start 21st on the grid. We want to watch, though. We know he can drive and overtake. He got the race up. He got 3 drivers in the field that have been race winners in the series coming up to this point. Lance Stroll took 1 win last year. George Russell took that win the opening weekend at Silverstone. And Max Gunther was a race winner in the championship last year as well. And Lance Stroll is on course to become the most winning driver in the current field, isn't he? Because he'll be the only driver in the field with 2 race wins if he can get around the final few corners. And there's no reason to believe he won't, because he's been driving very, very smoothly. He's kept that gap steady between him and Nick Cassidy. They've been the class of the field. They're about 6 seconds clear of George Russell in 3rd place. Less than half a second between 9th and 10th now going on to the final lap. But here is the checkered flag, and the first win of the season goes to the Canadian driver Lance Stroll for Prema Power Team. It's a Prema 1-2 because New Zealand's Nick Cassidy is just behind him in 2nd place. 1 and 2 on the cars, it says. 1 and 2 on the screen, it says. Perfect start for Lance Stroll. Early championship lead, just 29 races to go to hang on to it. George Russell takes 3rd place for Hi-Tech Grand Prix. Be very pleased with that, I think. Ben Barnicoat will also be very pleased with 4th place and the rookie victory. That's an excellent start to his campaign. So Hi-Tech Grand Prix third and fourth. Antoine Hubert trying at the end to gain places, even though he's well out of the points, but he didn't quite have time to do so. So Lance Stroll wins, Nick Cassidy second, George Russell third, Ben Barnicoat winning the rookie division in fourth place, Max Gunther was fifth. In sixth place, Joel Eriksson, second best rookie. Good start for him. Didn't see too much of him in the race, but he drove very well. Ralph Aron was the third best rookie, likewise, and he was seventh overall. Nico Carey, a bad start, but eighth place and some points on the board for him. The Finnish driver in his first European Formula 3 race. Harrison Newey in ninth place, I think will be relatively satisfied as well after starting outside of the points, 12th on the grid. Callum Ilott doing a remarkable job from 21st to 10th to claim the final points, and we know then he's got plenty of speed for this afternoon's race, where he will certainly be gunning for a podium position. Pedro Piquet had a lively race to finish in 11th position. Alessio Larandi likewise had plenty going on and was 12th. Mikkel Jensen, the bad start, I'm afraid, cost him any points, so 13th for him. Guan Yu Zhu, a steady 14th. Ryan Vetter in 15th. Sergio Sette-Câmara, a battling 16th after coming off with contact with his teammate at the first corner of the race. 17th place to Antoine Hubert. 18th was Raoul Hyman, 19th Nikita Mazepin, and 20th was Gong Li, with just the one retiree, Arjun Maini. The best lap of the race went to the race winner, number one, Lance Stroll, 1 minute 22.271 seconds. So the cars head in now. Another race to come for them, of course. That will be, well, it's 11:25 in the morning here in France. And the next race is late afternoon. It starts at 4:45 and will be live 10 minutes before the race starts at 4:35 in the afternoon here local time, to bring you the coverage of the second race. The third race tomorrow morning, early tomorrow morning, to round out the weekend. There's a long way to go before that. So, good standard of driving. One or two incidents here and there, but nothing that you wouldn't really expect in the first race of the new season, the first corner. Good standard of driving, some good overtaking in the field as well, and a very, very strong message being sent out by Lance Stroll that he is here for the championship title. A remarkable turnaround for the Canadian last year after much criticism and some incidents in the first half of the season, and that crash at Monza, he barrel rolled through the air. That was his low point, but he came back magnificently last season and was one of the strongest drivers in the second half of the year, consistent as well, and he's always had the pace. He's now got the pace, the consistency, there he is, and the maturity, and he is the early championship leader. So I look back now at some of the highlights